In at number 10 though is Red Hulk. Red Hulk may not have been a member of the regular Thunderbolts team, but he actually led his very own Thunderbolts team, so I'm including him here. And one other member from that team on this list. As most people know, Red Hulk is, well, a Hulk, meaning he has insane levels of super strength and durability that has allowed him to do things like overpowering and killing the Abomination with ease, punching out the Watcher, taking down an Elder of the Universe, and defeating an Odin Force-powered Thor in a one-on-one fight, though it should be noted that Thor was unprepared for him at the time. But what some might not know is his other two abilities. Red Hulk constantly gives off gamma radiation, which increases the angrier he gets, even sometimes making him appear to be on fire. And if he gets too angry, he can even explode in gamma fire. But Ross can also absorb energy, mostly gamma, but he apparently has a real taste for cosmic power. He has also absorbed and taken the Silver Surfer's power cosmic, flying away on his surfboard. Cowabunga, dude. Number 9. Moonstone. Carla Sofin was a not-so-moral psychiatrist who particularly enjoyed manipulating her patients into paranoia rather than helping them. So we're off to a good start here. This led to her being an assistant of the villain Dr. Faustus, and her manipulative skills only grew under his teachings. This allowed her to get time with Lloyd Bloch, who is the original Moonstone. She gave Lloyd hallucinogens and persuaded him into giving her the Moonstone and the Kree device that granted him immense powers, which include 10-ton superhuman strength, super speed, stamina, durability, agility, reflexes, and flight, as well as, thanks to the Gravity Stone, the ability to control gravitational forces, enabling her to move and otherwise manipulate matter, to create force fields, to increase gravity around a target and crush it, to generate miniature black holes, and even to transport objects through dimensional rifts. Number 8. Songbird. Melissa Gold, who goes by the superhero alias Songbird, is a human mutate with vocal cord based sound abilities that were later replaced by a set of vocal cord implants and an external harness thanks to Roxxon. Now this allowed her to do a whole bunch of really cool science fiction-y things like generating powerful sonic blasts, sonic force fields, influencing others with high-pitched sonic vibrations, and she can even create solid objects from sound, including battering rams, pincers, projectiles, giant hands, platforms, and wings that she can use to fly at supersonic speeds. The process that granted her these crazy powers also happened to give her super strength, capable of lifting 2 tons, and of course, she has the other basics like durability, stamina, reflexes, agility, and speed. What do you think of this? Kinda nuts. And at number 7 is America Chavez. While I feel as though a lot of people do really like America Chavez, I feel like a lot of people are not fully aware of her powers and just how awesome they can be. America has the physiology of an extra-dimensional being, which gives her the ability to channel interdimensional energies through her body. She's used these energies in a number of different ways, and never to their peak extent. So some of these powers she has displayed using these energies include self-propelled flight, superhuman speed, and superhuman strength that nearly allowed her to beat Loki in a fight. She is nearly indestructible and invulnerable, possesses superhuman longevity, hyper-cosmic awareness, and her signature move, the star-shaped portals that enable her to traverse time and the multiverse. She can also use them offensively as a spatial slicer, and the portals even allow her to access the Starling Highway. She's truly a powerhouse. Number 6. Persuasion. Persuasion is Kara Kilgrave, the daughter of Zebediah Kilgrave, otherwise known as the Purple Man. Similar to her father, Persuasion earns that name with the ability to release pheromones that can place people into an extremely susceptible state that puts them at Kara's every command. The difference between her and her father, though, is that when Kara is persuading someone and using her abilities, they also turn the same shade of purple as her, which means it would be very hard for her to use her abilities with any form of subtlety. Her abilities also don't work on symbiotes or their current hosts, so there's that as well. Sorry girl, you are cool, but your dad, he's kinda cooler. Whoops. Number 5. Penance / Speedball. Once Robert Baldwin, also known as Speedball, discovered his powers were still working after the Stanford incident, his powers evolved and he ordered a new, very metal-looking suit with 612 internal spikes that constantly caused him pain for the 612 lives that were lost in Stamford, Connecticut. He joined the new Thunderbolts team with his ability to create a kinetic field of unknown energy around himself, which absorbed all kinetic energy directed against him. With his kinetic field, it was nearly impossible for him to be hurt, and he instead bounced around harmlessly from object to object with no loss or transference of momentum. But as penance, with this new cool suit, Robbie's powers evolved, allowing him to absorb energy from his surroundings such as kinetic activity, electricity, and the radiation signatures of other super beings, which was then harnessed as kinetic release, causing explosive force to radiate from his body, firing lance beams of pure force from his hands, or even allowing him to fly. Penance initially required physical pain in order to activate these powers, hence the spikes and the name. And his bubble field powers appeared to be gone, but Doc Samson later showed Robbie that his powers were actually affected by his mindset, and he could reactivate his speedball powers with relaxed, positive thinking. Number 4. Atlas. On a delivery to South America, American soldier and mercenary Eric Jostin was mutated by Amora the Enchantress using Baron Zemo's ionic ray, infusing him with ionic energy. He took on a few different names as a villain, including Power Man, Smuggler, and Goliath, after using Pym particles to further enhance himself, but trying to become a hero, he joined the Thunderbolts and took on the name Atlas. But enough backstory. What powers did this ionic energy give Eric? Well, he can channel the energy into strength capable of lifting 30 tons, but thanks to the Pym particles, he can grow in size, increasing his strength to an almost immeasurable amount. He has limitless stamina, invulnerability, and increased perception and reflexes. But the interesting part of Atlas comes when he is in his energy form. In this form, Atlas is capable of adaptive possession, which he did with his old lover Dallas, self-propelled flight, energy manipulation and phasing, self-sustenance and immortality, as well as pan-dimensional phasing and the creation of breaches that act as doorways between the 616 universe and the microverse. Number 3. Lady Deathstrike. Yuriko Oyama is the daughter of Kenji Oyama, who eventually becomes Lord Darkwind and develops a way to use adamantium to enhance individuals, which was stolen by William Stryker. Yuriko did not like her father that much, and with the help of Daredevil, actually ended him. This inadvertently caused the loss of her lover though, which twisted her into taking after her father and enacting a vendetta against Wolverine for his adamantium skeleton that was given to him by the process stolen from Lord Darkwind. Yuriko took on the name Lady Deathstrike, and she also enhanced herself with adamantium claws and a cyborg body. Almost every single thing she does is in service of her vendetta against Wolverine, except for the Thunderbolts, which is a team she was just kinda on, even though Bullseye, who she also hated, was on that team as well. Her 12-inch long claws, much like her cybernetic skeleton, are laced with adamantium and enable her to cut and pierce through pretty much any substance. Her physical attributes are also enhanced, and she possesses a cybernetic healing factor and even the ability to cybernetically interface her consciousness with external computer systems. In at number 2 is Mongoose. Okay, are you ready to be alarmed? Mongoose, as his name might suggest, and as I never imagined would be true, actually started life as a legit mongoose. The change came when he was experimented on by the High Evolutionary. This experimentation that created the new men turned the mongoose into a sentient humanoid being who retains some of his animalistic qualities. Like all mongoose, or mongoose, no, it's mongoose. This character can lift 10 tons, run fast enough to scale buildings, physically exert himself for 24 hours straight, sustain strikes from Spider-Man and Thor, and he has enhanced agility and reflexes, just like all mongoose. I guess. He can also use his teeth and claws as weapons alongside his gauntlets that produce a paralyzing gas. To my surprise, while he has pretty much no training, he has developed his own fighting style that is apparently similar to Spider-Man's. Number 1. King Cobra. In a world where a highly radioactive super spider can allow a young man to do all the things a spider can, like apparently swinging from building to building and being incredibly acrobatic, of course there is someone who had the same thing happen but with a cobra instead. Klaus Voorhees was an ex-convict working with the medical research professor Ezekiel Schechter on a universal antitoxin for snake venom. Now Voorhees induced one of the cobras kept in the laboratory to bite both Schechter and himself, planning to use the universal antitoxin to save himself from death. But what he didn't know is that the cobra had been irradiated, so the combination of the radioactive venom and the experimental antitoxin gave Voorhees cobra-like powers, which is apparently elasticity for some reason. All of the bones in his body, including his skull, are malleable, and his muscles are also extremely resilient, making his body and bones basically impossible to break. He can control every muscle in his body to slither at around 50 miles per hour without his arms or his legs, able to slither into and out of very tight and small spaces down to about 4 inches in diameter. Also, by using his flexibility to wrap himself around a victim's body and then exerting his full strength, the cobra traps that victim within his cobra grip, which is exceedingly difficult to escape.
Kicking off the list at number 10, we have Atlas. He made his first comic book debut as Atlas in 1996, in Incredible Hulk issue 449. Meet Eric Jostin. He started out as an American soldier turned mercenary. During a delivery to South America, Baron Zemo's ionic ray was used by Amura, the Enchantress, and it infused him with ionic energy. He then joined the Masters of Evil, but this time he was Power Man. Later on, he was mutated by Pym Particles himself, and then he became Goliath. And then finally, he became Atlas when he joined the Thunderbolts. Atlas can fly, he's immortal, he has super strength, he can grow his size, big and small, he's pretty sick. I really hope we get to see Lawrence Fishburne's Goliath turn into this character in the MCU. I mean, Ghost was also a Thunderbolt at one point in the comics, and the two of them were both in Ant-Man and the Wasp. So perhaps we're closer to this dream team than we thought. And before we continue on with this list, guys, if you want to go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, that would be great. It really does help our channel out so much. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for your support. Now let's get right back into the list. Number 9, Venom, Matt Gargan. He first entered the comics in Amazing Spider-Man issue 19, and in the very next issue, he was branded new enemy of Spider-Man, the Scorpion. That's right, Matt Gargan. He is a former private investigator hired by J. Jonah Jameson to find out just how exactly Peter gets those A1 photographs of Spider-Man. But he is Spider-Man, so this task was never easy, of course. It wasn't working, so Jameson paid Matt 10 grand to have this experiment done, this experiment that gives him new abilities. This came from Dr. Farley Sitwell, and Gargan turned into the Scorpion, which we're probably going to see in the next Spider-Man movie as well, which is pretty fun. Egghead recruited Scorpion for the Masters of Evil, but after they were captured and released, Egghead didn't come back to recruit Matt again. Just didn't make the cut the second time around. Pretty rude. But down the road, Norman Osborn recruited Scorpion and was ordered to kidnap Aunt May. So during this mission, the symbiote found him, they connected through their hatred for Spider-Man, and they bonded. So now we have this guy. And he joined the Thunderbolts in issue 10. The government outfitted the symbiote with electrical implants just to keep him in line, you know? He worked for the government first in a rehabilitation program for criminals, and then he joined on the more popular Thunderbolts roster, Norman Osborn's Dark Avengers. Agent Venom, Eugene Thompson, was also recruited by General Ross at one point to join his team in Volume 2 of the Thunderbolts, so there's been more than one version, which I'll get into a little bit later on. Number 8, Batroc the Leaper. I have to include George Batroc, I mean, because he's finally back in the MCU in Falcon and Winter Soldier. We're probably gonna see more of him as well. I mean, the writer for Falcon and Winter Soldier, Derek Kolstad, has stated himself that characters from the earliest Marvel movies are coming back for this show. He was actually in Captain America the Winter Soldier. He was played by Canada's finest, George St. Pierre, and he was first introduced into Marvel Comics back in Tales of Suspense, issue 75. He finally joined the Thunderbolts after he and Shocker were trying to plan a heist. They actually ran into the Thunderbolts instead. And like I said, we're seeing him return to the MCU, and it just happens to be the time where John Walker is freaking out as a US agent, and Zemo just got arrested. So things are moving in a fishy way. Number 7, Red Hulk. He made his first appearance in Incredible Hulk issue 1 as General Ross, but come the first issue of volume 2, Ross went beast mode and became one of the Hulk's greatest threats. Red Hulk was created using gamma radiation, just like the Hulk, but what makes him even more of a threat is the fact that he also has cosmic rays added to his mix. So the Red Hulk doesn't get stronger the angrier he gets like Bruce, he actually gets hotter as well, physically. He starts to burn up, he gets red hot. And after the Phoenix War, Ross put together the Strike Team, and their first issue begins in Thunderbolts Volume 2, with him as the leader. Number 6, Juggernaut. Kane Marco made his first comic book appearance in X-Men issue 12. Kane and Charles Xavier were serving together in the same unit in the military, but when Kane was under fire, he ran off to take cover in this nearby cave. Now that cave, of course, was actually home to the lost temple of Sidorak, so Kane grabbed this glowing ruby from the lap of an idol, read the inscription, and now he possesses the power of the Crimson Bands of Sidorak. Kane joined Luke Cage's Thunderbolts in issue 144. When the Serpent was freed by Skadi, he called 7 hammers to Earth. The Juggernaut became one of those hammers. And then he destroyed the supervillain prison, the Raft, allowing the others to fly away. Now, I feel like this would be a sweet introduction for the mutants in the MCU, if like 3 of them just broke Zemo out, or the rest, oh my god, I'd scream. Number 5, Moonstone. She made her first comic book debut in Captain America 192. Carla Soffin was a psychiatrist, but instead of helping her patients, she sent them into paranoia instead. So she wasn't the best, that's for sure. This life choice, of course, led her down the path to become a villain, I mean, obviously, and she started out as an assistant to the Dr. Faustus. Eventually, she made her way to Lloyd Block, the original Moonstone, and then she poisoned him with hallucinogens, and then she made him hand over, well, the Moonstone. The Moonstone is a Kree device that grants its users tons of power. So yeah, it's not a bad thing to want that. We can see this exchange happen in the Incredible Hulk issue 299, and that's when it gets real. She gives the Hulk quite a run for his money. Now, she joined the Masters of Evil and went against the Avengers numerous times. She was actually one of the villains that stepped up once the Avengers went missing. She was on the Thunderbolts team, but she called herself Meteorite. Number 4, Scar. Joining the Thunderbolts in issue 175 of those Dark Avengers that I mentioned earlier, we have Scar. He is terrifying. I love him. He originally made his debut in World War Hulk issue 5. He was conceived during the Planet Hulk storyline. He's actually the son of Hulk and Kyra the Old Strong. So after the Hulk spent some time on Sakaar, he started to spend some time alone. Now, after the Hulk had just left the planet, Scar had popped out in this cocoon, and he resembled a teenager after just 1 year. He was growing quite fast. Now, given the fact that he was born on this not-so-chill planet, he learned how to fight for his life, like right off the bat. It was normal to him. He hunted for survival. So Scar retains something called the Old Power. So he has the ability to control tectonic energy, he can summon lava and magma, and he can also tap into energy projection as well. Out of all the children of the Hulk, Scar easily hits the top of that list. He was sent through a wormhole to Earth after he was excluded from the planet, going against his cousin She-Hulk and the Fantastic Four. Scar ended up joining Norman's Avengers team, but he ended up being a double agent who was actually on Steve Rogers' side all along. So if we do get this powerful member of the Thunderbolts, maybe he'll just end up being on the good side the whole time. Who knows? Number 3, Red Leader. AKA The Leader, we have Samuel Stearns. He made his first comic book debut in Tales to Astonish, issue 62. He was working one night at a chemical research plant, and when he was moving canisters of waste material, one of those canisters popped open and covered him in gamma radiation. Now, Stearns survived, just like Banner did in his similar situation, but it affected him in a different way. He went from being smart to becoming a genius, basically, and his brain could absorb more and more information. It gets quite big. It's kind of gross. It got to a point where his physical body starts to mutate, so now he has this giant green or sometimes red brain. I mean, he certainly looks like a villain, that's for sure. So he started to refer to himself as the leader, using his intellect to become a criminal mastermind. Now, he clashed with the other Gamma guy, Banner. In fact, he actually ruined Betty and Bruce's wedding at one point. And then finally, we saw the Red Leader join the Thunderbolts in Volume 2, Issue 6. I would love to see a Sam Stearns on the big screen, honestly. We need a smart guy, a smart villain with a big brain. We got one of those in the Avengers game. He's kind of cool, so live action wouldn't hurt. Number 2, Radioactive Man. Dr. Chen Lu was a physicist working for the Communist Party of the People Republic of China, and he was exposed to, of course, as you would have guessed, high levels of radiation, as his name probably tips you off. He was given superhuman abilities. He was able to emit high levels of radiation, so it's no doubt this guy was pretty useful on a Thunderbolts team. He made his first appearance in Journey into Mystery issue 93, and he joined the Thunderbolts in New Thunderbolts issue 3. There have been many teams, I know it's kind of confusing. He joined them after they declared their intention to stop these Atlantean villains, the Fathom 5, when they were attacking China. And then in New Thunderbolts issue 5 and 6, we see Radioactive Man as part of the main roster when they go and attack New York City. And finally, number 1, we have Songbird. Fans actually thought we were going to see Songbird on the big screen in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but it actually turned out to be Carly Morgenthau, a different version of Flag Smasher. So who is this Songbird that we all wanted? Who were we expecting here? Melissa Gold made her comic book debut in 1997 in The Incredible Hulk issue 449. She ran away from her parents at a young age, and whilst developing a hard knock life attitude, she ended up becoming a professional wrestler. And she gave herself the stage name Screaming Mimi, and she joined the wrestling crew The Grapplers. So the Grapplers were just straight killing it, but they weren't making the same amount of money as the male wrestlers were. Rings a familiar bell. So they took on a job with Roxxon Oil Company, and now of course the mission failed because Quasar came in and had to save the day. Typical hero stuff, loser. So Melissa was given vocal cord implants that provided her with acoustic kinetics, hence her first nickname, Screaming Mimi. She can make all these crazy weapons with her voice, and she even has the ability to craft herself wings and fly. She joined the Masters of Evil in Avengers issue 271, but when she could no longer use her powers, Zemo came in again, but this time his accomplice, the Fixer, gave her new powers with these new neck implants.
Number 10, Bullseye. While Lester might not be powerful in the more traditional sense of being, the most swole, his abilities do make him a rather deadly opponent. Bullseye might not have many superpowers to boast of, but he does have the almost superhuman skill of being able to hit a bullseye with almost any projectile. Bullseye is a master marksman known for his deadly accuracy, but he also does have something that makes him more durable than most. Adamantium. Adamantium is fused with part of his skeleton in a process similar to the one Wolverine underwent. In fact, it was the man who originally came up with that process, Lady Deathstrike's father, Lord Darkwind, aka Kenji Oyama, who gave Bullseye this power. Bullseye was initially recruited to join Norman Osborn's Thunderbolts. Number 9, Rhino. Rhino might be a ridiculous villain on paper and in the 60s Spider-Man cartoon, but he also happens to be one of the most powerful when it comes to Spider-Man's gallery of rogues. Rhino is Alexei Sistovich, a villain who started out as a goon for the Russian mafia, dreaming of wealth and power. Alexei ended up being convinced to participate in a series of treatments which would inevitably grant him super strength through bonding him to an armor that was fashioned to look like a rhinoceros. As such, he is not only super strong, but also is super fast and super durable, although not so bright. Rhino actually ended up becoming a member of Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin's own Thunderbolts team, which was assembled during the King in Black event. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists like it, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. After all, there are tons more Thunderbolt members, tons more. Number 8, Plant Man. Some might think of Plant Man as a B or even a C-list villain, and based on how much he's shown up in the comics over the years and what he has, or rather kinda hasn't, managed to accomplish in his villainy, you'd kinda be right. But Plant Man also recently got a pretty big power up in the comics thanks to the Empire event and the Kotati, who he allied himself with during their attack on Earth. The Kotati are a plant-like race who were once the neighbors of the Kree. They're much more peaceful but highly advanced neighbors, who were actually pitted against the Kree when the Skrulls came to visit. Bearing a grudge for the Kree, the Skrull, and the humans of Earth, the Kotati set out to destroy all animal-based life. Plant Man decided to join their side as, at this point, Samuel Smithers identified more as a plant than a man, and in fact didn't even like his human name being used. His powers allow him to communicate with and command plant and vegetable matter. He also seems to be somewhat telepathic, and as he is now completely made of vegetable matter, he can control his density and size, making him very hard to destroy and super strong and durable when he wants to be. It was during his time with the Thunderbolts that Plant Man actually took the name Blackheath for himself, which is currently what he prefers to go by. It's either Blackheath or Plant Man. Number 7, Taskmaster. Taskmaster wasn't just a member of the Thunderbolts, he's also been known for being their leader. Like Rhino before him, Taskmaster was also recruited to join the Kingpin's version of the team, but has been involved with the Thunderbolts even before that. Taskmaster is Tony Masters in the comics, a man who is known for being an extremely efficient mercenary and assassin. He has what's referred to as photographic reflexes, which were gifted to him via an experimental version of the super soldier serum. However, even even before he was injected with the serum, Masters had the skill to watch various abilities and moves and just be able to replicate them just from seeing them. But now that ability is pretty much instantaneous. The serum also greatly enhanced his short-term memory and heightened his reflexes and speed to superhuman levels. Number 6. Star. Star was one of the villains recruited into Kingpin's Thunderbolts team. Initially, Star was posing as a hero. She underwent a treatment that made her half Kree and part of Minerva's plot to isolate and then later recruit Captain Marvel, aka Carol Danvers. Before she was known as Star though, she was Ripley Ryan, a reporter who actually was saved at one point by Captain Marvel herself. Minerva, having also promised Star superpowers however, decided to siphon them from Carol Danvers due to an earlier plot which gave her the abilities to basically do so. Really, she just wanted to alienate Carol and ruin her reputation so that Captain Marvel would join the Kree Empire. She didn't really want to hurt Carol in the long run. However, when Star found out about the fact that Minerva wanted to recruit Carol, she became jealous and almost killed Minerva in a rage. The fight came down to Captain Marvel versus Star, with Carol removing the devices in both her own and Ripley's chests, which allowed Star to siphon her powers. Later on though, Star would become merged with the Reality Stone, giving her access to unlimited amounts of reality-altering power. However, Star is not very experienced in her use of these powers yet, but she does have great potential, which is why I ranked her so high on this list. Number 5. Juggernaut. Juggernaut is Cain Marko, the villainous stepbrother of Charles Xavier, aka Professor X. Unlike his brother Charles, Cain himself is a human, not a mutant, and he originally got his powers from Cyttorak, being granted the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak, and becoming his champion on Earth. Currently though, Juggernaut's ties to Cyttorak as his champion and avatar have been broken. Instead, for his powers, Juggernaut relies on the Crimson Bands of Cyttorak, which do not tie the user to Cyttorak's will in the same way. This means that Cain now basically gets to operate independent of Cyttorak's will or influence, using the powers of the Crimson Band armor for his own interests. Cain became a member of Luke Cage's Thunderbolts team for a time, before he was made into one of the Serpent's champions during the Fear Itself event. Number 4. Jennire Val. Jennire Val is the son of Mar-Vell, and honestly, he's kind of the worst in my opinion, but he is also very powerful and actually died during his time on the Thunderbolts team, which means he definitely deserves a place on this list. However, I refuse to name this point after his last super codename, Photon, because I cannot abide by all the codename stealing that he did. Like, you make Monica Rambeau give up the Captain Marvel mantle for you, and then you come back to Earth and demand Photon as well? Too rude, sir. Too rude. Regardless of his name theft, Jennire Val was known for being extremely powerful due to his heritage as both a Kree and a Titan. His energy-based powers as a result were known for being off the charts. Number 3. Moonstone. You know I have to give love to my girl Karla Sofen. Moonstone is probably one of the most powerful members of the Thunderbolts to have ever joined the team. Initially, she got her powers from the Moonstone, hence her name. She stole it from the previous Moonstone, Lloyd Bloch, actually using her psychiatric skills to emotionally traumatize Bloch to the point that his body rejected the stone, allowing her to take it for herself. Moonstone has stood up against and taken down Carol Danvers, one of the strongest heroes in the Marvel Universe, and Karla herself has been a longtime enemy of Danvers, going back through to her Miss Marvel days. Currently, Karla is fused with the Kree Gravity Stone, which is what grants Karla her current powers. She still goes by the name Moonstone though. Karla initially joined the original Thunderbolts under the guise of the heroic codename Meteorite. Number 2. Atlas. Coming our way from the original Thunderbolts team is Atlas. Atlas, however, was formerly known as Goliath, and prior to that actually had a series of other codenames including Power Man. Atlas, as one of the original members of the Thunderbolts, was also known for being a member of the Masters of Evil, who were revealed of course to be the team of heroes that we had come to know as the Thunderbolts. Dun dun dun, what a twist. Atlas himself is known for being able to change size due to Pym particles and his ability to charge himself with ionic energy, or his ionic energy form if you will. He can use ionic energy not only to change his size, but he can also channel it into increased durability or super strength as he sees fit. I would normally put Jennire Val and Moonstone above someone like Atlas, but it also should be noted, I think this is really important, that Jennire Val is, currently dead, while Atlas is currently virtually indestructible and immortal. Through his connection to ionic energy, as long as he has the willpower to, he can basically resurrect himself pretty much indefinitely, because he's ionic energy. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. I think it's pretty cool. Number 1. Kobik. Kobik is a being who is the cosmic cube incarnate. While Kobik is often known for taking the form of a child, as during her creation she felt broken and confused, she is extremely powerful. Harnessing the power of the cosmic cube, which of course is her, means that Kobik can alter reality with a mere whim, and beyond that has access to seemingly limitless power. Kobik would end up being influenced by Red Skull into warping reality so that Captain America became a longtime Hydra loyalist and sleeper agent, with Kobik believing this was a good thing to do, due to Red Skull's influence. While Hydra Steve was plotting away and eventually wreaking havoc on the US, Kobik would end up joining forces with Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, in an attempt to prove herself to be capable of good. Obviously she felt a little bit bad about everything that had gone on. Kobik would gather her own team of Thunderbolts, who Winter Soldier would then lead.